Creatine 101, what is creatine? It's a combination of 3 amino acids, arginine, methionine, and glycine. And those 3 amino acids are what makes what they call a small peptide. Now, stepping back is looking at amino acid. Amino acids are just simple individual parts that build up a protein, right? So you'll see things like branched chain amino acids or essential amino acids. Those same things are the same things that build up just a smaller version of what is called creatine. So when we look at those amino acids, we ought to think of those as the foundational pieces that build proteins. Much like when we see an animal protein, like a steak or chicken or a fish, those individual parts are actually broken up into amino acids. And that same part is actually the part that rebuilds and creates creatine in your body. What and how does the body use creatine for? And the first things we gotta look at is it helps in terms of creating this thing called phosphate reservoir. And phosphate's an important thing to look at because when we look at energy in the body, it's really how we utilize ATP or adenosine triphosphate. And if you look at the actual root word, phosphate's in there. So the more phosphates we have circulating around the system, the more we can actually use that to create energy down the road. So as we exercise, we burn glucose, we burn through things like ATP, which are small individual components, we start needing more and more phosphates. And where creatine comes in is it's just a supplemental version. So we take in an actual creatine phosphate and we increase our phosphate reservoir. So when we need it, we can actually replenish and repair, and then we can get more energy throughout our workout. Another thing to think about is creatine phosphate is actually found in food. And one of the most important considerations to think about is although it is found in food and we can get an abundance of our creatine phosphate from food, we also want to look at it's more available from actual supplemental forms. And that's important because when you're exercising and you're training frequently, you burn through a lot of ATP and you create more of a need for creatine phosphate. And if you're not supplementing, you might not be getting it at the rate that you should be relative to just eating animal proteins, which is a nice way to get it, and you might hit some part of it. But if you're training really frequently and you're training really hard, it creates more of a demand for creatine phosphate, and therefore you should think about supplementing it part as eating a regular or normal diet that includes animal proteins or protein in general. What are some benefits that you can get when you supplement with creatine? Looking at the highest functioning levels, we always want to start with the outcome, right? What is my actual thing that I want to accomplish no matter what that I do, right? I want to run faster, I want to run farther, I want to lift more. No matter what your outcome is, you need to have the fundamental blocks of energy to get you there. And ATP is that thing. And the ability to replenish ATP, no matter if you're running long distance or lifting something maximally, is going to be predicated on the replenishment of ATP. And you do that by having creatine phosphate stores. So mechanically, I break down, I have these things like cross bridges, muscle fibers acting. It doesn't know the difference from deadlifting 1,000 pounds or from running 10 miles. You really want to come back down to what is your ultimate goal and what are the constitutes to help you get to that goal. And creatine phosphate is just a tool that we can use in leveraging more ATP to get us to point B, whether that's lifting more weights, getting bigger, running faster, running farther. The same mechanical energy, to a degree, needs to be in place to get there. And supplemental creatine phosphate helps us get you there no matter what the outcome is.